This is the moment every Golden State Warriors fan has quietly wondered about and maybe never believed could actually sit on the table. So lock in with me and stay with me through this because I'm going to walk you through it like we're at the arena concourse after a game. The NBA can act like this is just noise, like it's fan fiction, like it's just social media energy. But the internal conversation around the league has already shifted from, could that ever happen? To, what would it cost if it did? And whenever teams quietly start running cost, timing, and structure, that means we're not in fantasy anymore, we're in scenario planning. The scenario is simple to say and crazy to picture. Giannis Antetokounmpo, out of Milwaukee, wearing a Golden State Warriors uniform while Stephen Curry is still playing championship basketball. I'm going to explain why this is coming up now, why the timing matters for both sides, what the deal actually looks like, how it fits, what it would mean immediately for the West. And then I'm going to ask you directly if you're willing to pay that price. Because this one isn't just numbers. This one is identity. To understand why this rumor isn't just a meme, you have to start in Milwaukee. The Bucks were supposed to be an automatic deep playoff team every year after winning the title in 2021. They were supposed to be the calm, veteran machine of the East. But look at what's actually happened since that parade. It hasn't been steady growth. It's been slippage. First-round exits. Same opponent bouncing them. Control late in games slipping. Defensive identity slipping. Coaching turnover. Roster churn. You can sell regular season wins to casuals, but you cannot sell early playoff exits to a superstar who has already tasted a ring. Milwaukee went out twice in a row to the Pacers, and not in 7-game classic tip-your-cap fashion. We're talking about losing in 5, blowing leads, breaking down in the 4th, looking tired, looking predictable. That's the sort of defeat that hits pride, not just standings. It creates doubt in veterans, and doubt in veterans is poison. It also creates a specific kind of pressure around Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis has never hidden who he is. He's not here for nice stats and early summers. He's here for banners. He's said that over and over. When a guy like that starts to feel like the franchise can't match his urgency, a silent countdown starts. And here's why that's so dangerous for the Bucks front office. The contract clock is louder than people think. Giannis is making superstar money now, and he has a gigantic player option down the line worth well into the $60 million per year range. That option year is closer than it looks on paper. That means his stay or go moment is not some distant future conversation. It's coming. In this league, once a player of that level gets close to a decision point and hasn't fully committed long-term, the leverage flips. Either the team convinces him we're still built to win titles, or they start preparing for the worst-case scenario. If he asks out, how do we not get left with nothing? That's how big swings get born. Teams never say it publicly, but internally they have to model it. They have to at least ask, if we had to move him, what could we even ask for? That's where this gets real. Because Golden State is one of the few teams that can answer that question with something Milwaukee would actually have to sit down and stare at. Now let's talk about us. You cannot talk about Giannis without talking about the Warriors' situation right now. The outside narrative is that the dynasty is in the late stages, the window is closing, all that aging core talk. Inside the building, that is absolutely not how they're operating. You saw that when Golden State went and brought in Jimmy Butler. That wasn't a cute move. That wasn't a let's mentor the young guys move. Butler is a win-now piece. Butler is emotion, accountability, playoff violence. You don't go get that guy if you're easing into a gentle rebuild. You go get that guy because you still believe in Steph Curry as a top-tier offensive engine, you still believe in Draymond Green as the defensive quarterback, and you believe you can still climb. Getting Butler said out loud, we're still hunting banners. Not vibes, banners. And if you're already moving like that, then of course you're going to look around the league and ask, is there one last nuclear move out there that lets us hit that Kevin Durant shockwave level again? Not the same type of player, the same type of impact, the same every other Western Conference contender just groaned effect. There is only one player in the league big enough, physically and stylistically, to create that kind of immediate fear next to Curry and Draymond. It's Giannis. Now here's where the whole room gets quiet. There's already a 3-team trade framework circulating that actually works under the rules. This is not a lazy, let's trade bench guys for an MVP post. This is a structure with names, money, picks, a timeline, and logic for all three teams. In this construction, Golden State ends up with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Detroit ends up with Jimmy Butler and a 2030 second-round pick from Golden State. Because Detroit wants a battle-tested veteran voice to drag young talent out of potential and into professional. And Milwaukee? Milwaukee doesn't get scraps. Milwaukee gets what basically looks like the starter kit for a controlled reset. We're talking Jaden Ivey. We're talking Brandon Podziemski. We're talking Isaiah Stewart. We're talking Tobias Harris's contract to make the math line up. And on top of that, a stack of Warriors draft capital that stretches years into the future. An unprotected 2026 first, a 2027 pick swap, a 2028 first, a 2031 pick swap, and a 2032 first. That is not a light offer. That's not here's 2 late 20s picks. Enjoy. That's we're seeding your next era and letting you sell hope to your fans on day one. That's the kind of return a team asks for when they're giving up a face of the franchise. Hall of Fame lock, jersey in the rafters guy. Now from our side, that price is brutal. Let's not lie to ourselves. Podziemski is not just a contract. He is absolutely part of the Warriors' cultural fabric already. High IQ, rebounder at his size, plays like he's been here for years, talks on defense, doesn't disappear in big moments. He feels like one of ours. The picks are also not nothing. We're not talking about tossing out some protected first next season and calling it a day. We're talking about surrendering control of multiple future drafts, deep into years where Stephen Curry will no longer be your nightly engine. That matters because those picks are normally how you bridge eras and make sure you don't fall off a cliff when your icons finally slow down. So make no mistake. A move like this is basically the front office standing in front of the entire fan base and saying, "We are comfortable betting a decade of flexibility on Steph's remaining prime." That is the statement. That's the gamble. That's what makes this more than a rumor and turns it into a legacy conversation. And that's exactly why I need to talk to you, because this is where it becomes emotional for us as fans. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to say goodbye to a player like Podziemski, someone who already feels like a warrior in every way that matters, in exchange for Giannis right now? Are you willing to hand the Bucks control of parts of your draft future for basically the next 7-ish years so you can try to win another ring while Curry, Butler, and Draymond are still in that we can still decide playoff games with our brains zone? Are you willing to accept that after this there is no more slow build? It's either rings in the next 2 to 3 seasons or a very long reset, because that's the truth hiding underneath all the hype graphics. This isn't get Giannis because it'd be fun. This is get Giannis because you're trying to stretch the dynasty past its natural expiration date. Think about that and drop your answer in the comments, because I promise I'm going to read them. I go back and forth. There's a part of me that wants to be loyal to the homegrown story and keep developing our guys. And then I remember what it felt like when Kevin Durant first put on a Warriors jersey and the rest of the league basically sighed like, great, now we all have to live through this. You remember that? Be honest, you want to feel that again. Now let's go into the basketball fit, because this is where it gets ridiculous in a way that keeps other GMs up at night. Offensively, picture Curry working off the ball like we've seen for a decade, defenders panicking 28 feet from the hoop, chasing him around screens, and instead of Draymond initiating at the nail, it's Giannis catching the ball with a live dribble at the free throw line. You cannot send normal help at that. If you leave Curry for even half a second, that's 3 points. If you stay home on shooters and try to guard Giannis one-on-one in space, that's 2 points or a foul. If you bring a wall early, he lobs over the top. You overhelp? Corner 3. You sag? Dunk. You foul? Free throws. You pick him up high? Spin and layup. That's not play calling, that's gravity. And the underrated part is what that does for Steph's legs in May. Curry is still elite, but at this point in his career, you want to save his body for the deep rounds. Giannis takes pressure off him in January, February, March, so that a Game 6 on the road in late May still features fully loaded Steph minutes. That's how older superstar cores win in the modern league. It's not just about the highlight plays, it's about load sharing so your closer is still fresh when it matters. Defensively, it might be even nastier. We've all watched peak Warriors defense. Switchable, connected, loud, mean, disruptive. Draymond reading plays before they start, baiting stars into frustration fouls, blowing up pick and rolls that every other team in the league has to just live with. Now drop Giannis next to that. Suddenly you can play small without actually being small. You can blitz high screens and still recover. You can let Draymond roam because he knows there's a second line of elite help behind him. You can afford mistakes because you have the length and IQ to erase them on the fly. What that does is simple. It lets you dictate the tone of the game again. Teams that rely on rhythm absolutely hate when Golden State is in that defensive mode where every drive feels like a collision and every kickout is still somehow contested. That's what this would recreate. That's where opposing front offices start using the word unfair. Not because it's a video game, but because it bends today's spacing rules back in favor of the defense in a way you almost never see anymore. Now, I want to be fair to Milwaukee in this. The Bucks are not casually volunteering to move on from their franchise legend. None of this happens unless they feel cornered. They are only even thinking about this because of what I said earlier. The combination of playoff disappointment, the pressure of keeping Giannis fully bought in, and the calendar on his deal. If Giannis walks into that building and says, even quietly, "I'm not sure I can commit past this point," then Milwaukee has a choice. Either risk losing him for nothing down the line, or take the pain now and at least control the story. And let's be honest, if they ever get to that point, sending him somewhere like Golden State actually lets them say to their own fans, "We did right by him, we sent him to a contender, and we brought back a future." That matters in terms of optics. Front offices care about being able to stand in front of cameras and sell a decision like that. Saying we traded Giannis to a known winner next to Steph Curry is way easier to swallow than we sent him to a mid-tier team for cap relief. This is why the league is not laughing this off. This is why executives keep bringing up Golden State when they talk about Giannis hypotheticals. This is why you're hearing real frameworks with real names and real picks instead of the usual vague, sources say Team X is monitoring. The Warriors are one of the only teams that can deliver star-level salary, high-upside young players, and deep future draft control in one package, and still tell the incoming superstar, "We have a culture. We've won here. You can win here immediately." There just aren't many franchises positioned like that. So here's where we stand right now. The scenario being discussed is Giannis Antetokounmpo next to Stephen Curry and Draymond Green in a Warriors jersey, with Golden State sending out Jimmy Butler, multiple young pieces including someone as important as Brandon Podziemski, and a mountain of first-round capital stretching almost a decade into the future. That would mean the Warriors are openly choosing to go all in on the final highest-pressure stage of the Curry era instead of playing it safe and gliding toward a slow handoff to the next generation. It would mean Golden State trying to extend the dynasty instead of letting it fade. It would mean the entire Western Conference having to react overnight, because if that version of the Warriors exists, every other team's path to the finals instantly gets harder. And it would send a shockwave through the East. Milwaukee either hits reset with young talent and draft control, Detroit jumps forward with a hardened veteran presence like Butler, and the league as a whole has to redraw the power map on the spot. So I'm putting this to you directly, because this isn't just talking points. This is who we want to be as a fan base. If the front office actually has a real shot to do this, do you want them to pull the trigger? Are you all in for another banner right now, worry about 2032 later, or are you protect the future, keep our guys, ride it out with what we built? Tell me in the comments, because I'm not interested in national guys guessing what Warriors fans think. I'm talking to the people who actually live this team every night. Here's my final read. This is exactly why you build an organization like Golden State the way they've built it. You draft well. You develop internal pieces until they have real value. You protect your culture. You earn the trust of superstars around the league. And you prove over and over that if a true generational player lands in your system, you know how to win at the highest level. You do all that so that if a moment like this ever becomes real, you're ready to say yes. We're not talking about staying relevant. We're talking about championships. We're talking about keeping the dynasty alive long enough to make people admit it never really ended. Stay with us here on Warriors News Fan Report. Hit subscribe, hit like, turn on notifications, and drop your answer below. Because if this thing even starts to heat up, this fan base is going to have a voice in it.